Hi and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This teaching is for you if you are feeling unloved. We're going to be deep diving into the causes of these unwanted feelings and emotions and offering you practical tips and advice for you to generate more love in your life. Okay, David, so let's go back to basics. This teaching is all about love. So in the Wu Wei Wisdom model, what is love?
Well, you're right, Alex. This is a real kind of core teaching in the Wu Wei Wisdom model. You are the creator of your emotions. You are not the victim of them. So I would say love is a feeling. Love is an emotion. And therefore, only you can create that emotion. And this very basic misunderstanding is where it really goes wrong, because a lot of people are searching externally for someone to give them love, almost like it's a commodity. You have to do something. You have to earn love. You have to act in a certain way to receive this blessing of love. And this is the fundamental 101 core mistake that people make.
But David, isn't it natural and normal to want to be loved, to want to have that feeling of being of value, being a good person, being special in some way, to have that warm, fuzzy feeling?
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. But everything you've just said there is you are the only one that can create those feelings. Those are all feelings, that warm, fuzzy feeling. No one can give it to you. They can't email it to you. They can't send it to you. You are the only one that creates it. This is why this teaching, you are the creator of your emotions, not the victim, is so vitally important. So if you are looking for that warm, fuzzy feeling, then I'm sorry to tell you, only you can create that warm, fuzzy feeling. Nobody else can give it to you. And if you're searching for someone else to somehow put that into your body, you will always be disappointed.
But David, are you saying that I should have... It's a false expectation to want my partner to love me, to want my family to love me, to want my important friends to love me, and to value that?
No, I'm not saying that's a false expectation. But if your partner loves you, he or she is creating a feeling. They are creating a feeling for you. They're not giving you that feeling. So here's where you have to be very clear. Your partner can be madly in love with you, devoted to you, give over their life to you, but they're not giving you a feeling. They are demonstrating that they are experiencing that feeling, the way that they treat you, talk to you, interact with you. What they're doing is they're demonstrating to you that they create that feeling. So let's do something simple. If your partner buys you a bunch of red roses and gives it to you, and that gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling, you're creating the feeling. They are not creating the feeling. They are doing it because they create a feeling of love.
But their action helps me create the feeling. This is the problem. This is the problem. So I get the logic, the nuts and bolts of the mechanism you're describing, but most people would say if I'm ignored, if I'm rejected, if I'm mistreated, I then feel, I create a feeling which is like a feeling of being unloved. But it's because of what they did. It's always because of what other people did.
And that is the essence of the teaching, Alex.
Yeah.
You see, now you are now putting your responsibility for your feelings that only you can create onto someone else. And therefore, you're making yourself a victim to them. You become a victim. Again, I'm going to repeat the teaching. You are the creator of your emotions. You are not the victim. Now, for those of you ready to write in and say, oh, I don't create my emotions. How do emotions get into your body? Do they float around the room? Do they attack you? No, of course you create them. And listen to the teaching. I'm not saying you shouldn't create emotions. Please create as many emotions that you want to create. As you say, create an emotion of being unloved. But that doesn't change the situation. That's only you creating a feeling internally inside of your body. And you are accountable and responsible for that. This is why it's so important. And I would go so far after doing this work for nearly 45 years. This is life-changing. So the feeling of love is the most wonderful feeling that you could experience. Being with a partner, being with a family who demonstrate that they are also creating a feeling of love for you and the family unit is wonderful. But they are not putting a feeling inside of your body. And you have to be accountable and responsible for that. And this is why it's important. Because if you're not, you spend your life searching for something or someone to give you the feeling. And this is what I'm sure we're going to talk about now. But you start to people please. You start to sacrifice yourself, looking and searching for that feeling that only you can create.
I can see that, a lot of people put 100% of their focus on other people, external sources, in order to get the love or to generate the love for themselves. What you're saying is you can generate, you don't need the external sources, you can generate this feeling for yourself. But the problem is, it's very difficult. If I accept, okay, David, I can generate the feeling of love for myself. I can respect myself. I can treat myself with compassion. I can value myself. I can celebrate myself. But it's very difficult to completely cut out the influence of how other people treat me, to not be affected by that, to not let that affect my feelings of self-worth and value and love, because I guess it's conditioning or a certain measure of expectations I have that I should be loved and treated well by those important people in my life.
So I'm going to agree with you. If you're in a relationship, if you're in a family, we should all treat each other well, and we should all create that loving feeling within ourselves, within that family unit. But then you went on and said something very important. You said it's normal for me to question my self-worth, my value, and I'm saying it's not. I'm saying your value and your worth, and this is why at the core of this teaching is a spirituality. If someone doesn't love you, if somebody can't love you, if somebody finds it difficult to love you, that's their problem, that's their issues. Why are you taking it on for you and becoming the victim of their problems and questioning your self-worth and your self-love? Because isn't it wonderful, as you said, at the beginning of what you said, isn't it wonderful to value yourself? Isn't it wonderful to create that warm, fuzzy feeling for you, regardless to what's going on externally? Is that easy? No, of course it's not easy. That's why we're doing the teaching. But this is why I would go one further than you when you say, isn't it normal, isn't it natural to want love? I would say, you are love. You are love. When you create that feeling, that's what we are as a spiritual being. We are the feeling of love. And we should never sacrifice or give that away because someone else, and it may be somebody very important to us, a parent or a partner, is having difficulty creating that love for us. Normally means they can't create it for themselves. And for us then to sacrifice that feeling for ourselves because of what they're doing. Is this easy? No, Alex, it's not easy. It's very difficult. And that's why you have to go to the core teaching. You are the creator of your emotions. Don't sacrifice your self-worth because other people are having difficulty in their lives or their thought processes or their belief system, or they're having difficulty in valuing themselves. Don't let that affect you, or you are not the victim of that.
Yeah, David, and I really get that, because it's almost like we are disrespecting ourselves. You know, it's like we've been given this gift of a life, of our bodies, of our minds, and that we should cherish it and value it, and for the, you know, as part of the human experience, and to diminish ourselves, to start to question our own value just because someone else ignores us, disrespects us, criticizes us, pulls away from us. Making the choice to do that, to feel unloved because of someone else's actions, is really not taking responsibility for ourselves. It's kind of disrespecting ourselves, because, as you say, we don't know. That other person's entitled to their opinion. That other person is on their own journey. That other person may be having their own issues to deal with. We don't know, but they are responsible for themselves, and we are responsible for ourselves. And that we should hold that self-responsibility in the most important position.
Well, I would absolutely agree with that, because in that self-responsibility that you just explained is your self-worth and your self-value, your shen. Now, why this is such a challenge is because many of us, and I would say a lot of us, have been brought up in a family environment through those very formidable years that I talk about, the inner child years of 6 years old and 9 years old, to believe that love or attention is something we have to earn. We have to be a good boy or a good girl to get that love. So it's almost like we're brought up in a carrot and a stick situation. If we're not good, whatever that means, defined by our family, our parents, we get kind of cut out and scorned on, or not pleased, not praised. If we're good, whatever that is defined by our parents, we then get praise and we get their attention. And very quickly in that part of the mind that I call the inner child, we fall into this trap that love is something that, like is a commodity, that we have to earn. We have to do something. We have to people please. We have to make people happy, and then we get something from them. We're not getting love. What we're actually getting is some form of attention. And we get that confused. This is why this teaching is so important. And we get that confused because then when we get their attention, we create that warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah. And I think, David, that do you think as children we learn that if we get attention, it means we're valued, that we're lovable? So it's more profound than just getting the feeling, the validation. It's, as children, we perceive attention, positive attention, loves, cuddles, kind words, time spent with parents looking after us, as we're valuable, we mean something, we're special, and then we learn that system. And so then as soon as we don't get the attention, it's like, for some of us, it's like we're not worth anything. Who am I? What do I stand for? What's my value? If nobody's giving me attention, I have no value.
I can't add to that, Alex. That's perfectly explained. That's how we see it as a children. That's the part of the mind that I would call the inner child. It sees things as good and bad, yes and no, right and wrong, black and white. And so exactly falls into that scenario that you just very clearly explained. And that scenario stays with us all of our life. So we're constantly looking for that attention, that love, and we see it as validation. See, that's really the main misunderstanding here, that we need and we require attention, strokes, validation externally to us to kind of put money in our bank and make us good. It's down to other people. And that's what makes us the victim, because we're always looking externally instead of looking internally.
And when we sense that we are not getting the attention, the positive attention from whatever sources we deem to be important, yes, it's like that inner child part of our mind panics. And then rather than doing what we should authentically do, as you say, which is to start to think, hold on a minute, I should be generating this for myself through self-care, self-compassion, valuing myself, talking kindly to myself. We just work harder and harder to claw for that attention from other people. So we go out of our way to people please. We go out of our way to be perfect. We go out of our way to manipulate. We go out of our way to prove ourselves, to raise our game, to raise our status, to be a better person, to do the right thing. And all the while, we are not only draining our energy in that kind of fruitless pursuit, instead of doing it internally, but we're moving further and further and further away from our authenticity.
Again, I can't improve on that. It's very well explained. I can give you another route that I see constantly, is that when we're looking externally for this love or validation, we're never satisfied. It's like a drug. So you could have a partner or you could have a family that love you in their way, but it's never quite enough. And so you're looking for external. You're looking for something else. You're looking for somebody else. You're always searching for better, to be loved by everyone, to be valued by everyone, to be put on a pedestal. And it becomes like a kind of a drug, Alex, that you're never satisfied. You're always looking for the next fix. You're always looking for somebody who may love you more, who may honor you more, who may give you what you want more, to make you more special. And so it's almost like a hamster on a wheel. I call it the carousel of despair. You're never satisfied. You're always stretching. I always picture when I'm giving this teaching of that donkey with a carrot dangling in front of it. You're always trying to grab the next carrot. And this is the carousel of despair, because as you've just explained, you're always searching externally. And this is why this teaching is so powerful and profound. Love is a description of an emotional feeling. Therefore, only you can create what that feeling, whatever you want to call it, warm and fuzzy, beautiful, the most wonderful feeling is in the world. I agree with all of that. I'm not against emotions. I value emotions. It's what makes us human beings. But you create them. Nobody else parcels up a feeling of love and emails it to you, so it lasts you for the rest of your life. It's something that only you can create.
And David, do you think that people who, as children, in their childhood, were either put on a pedestal and treated like a little prince or princess, or that they were denied the love and attention, positive attention they should have got when they were children, or it was kind of a push-pull sort of situation with love, the kind of carrot and stick reward thing. Do you think people who've had this kind of imbalanced childhood where love has been denied or pushed upon them too hard, or their value has been very much tied to love and attention, that as adults, those people now struggle the most with this issue?
Yes, I do. I think it's those three that you've identified perfectly. It's either you were put in a cotton wool ball and love was adorned on you by your family, extended family, grandparents. You could do no wrong. That's the one side. The other side is that you were in a dysfunctional, abusive relationship and love was not available to you, but you could look around and you could see other children receiving this attention and this validation. Or, this is what I normally find, it's a little bit more complicated. You were in this carrot and stick situation where you had to do something. You had to be a good boy, a good girl. You had to do well at school.
Perform.
You had to perform, exactly. And love is then the attention, the validation is the reward. And so therefore, it's a hard word to use, but I'm going to use it. You're programmed. That's your programming that you received as a child. And that's what you bring into adulthood. And that's exactly why we do these life lessons. This is a life lesson that you've got to accept, understand, and you can change, because it's just a belief. Look at the facts. Do you believe that love is given to you by other people? Do you believe that love is an emotional feeling? At the end of this teaching, this is what you should be thinking about. Even if in the first sight, when you hear what I'm saying, you are the creator of your mind, if you get that resistance, then just think about it. If David is wrong and somebody else creates love and sends it to me, how does that work? In practice, how does that work? No, it can't work. They can demonstrate they love you, and then you say, well, if my partner demonstrates they love me, then I create that warm, fuzzy feeling because it's nice to be loved. But then you create the feeling, and it's your responsibility for creating that feeling. And my teaching is you should be creating that feeling for you because you have worth and value regardless of what episode you're going through in your life. You should be doing that for yourself because you are worth it. You are awesome, and you have to have that self-belief. And this is the core of this teaching.
And so, David, if someone is listening to this teaching and they can recognize some of those patterns of approval, love, affection giving, or denial from their childhood, if they can recognize that as adults now they are operating on this looking externally for love rather than looking internally, what can they do? You call it programming. What can they do to rewire the programming? If they understand what you're saying, if they identify with what you're saying, how do they break if that's become their default of getting love, generating love, how do they break that?
That's a wonderful question. They do that by thinking of that part of their mind as their inner child. And this is why I really value this idea of the inner child. Remember, the inner child is your subconscious mind, and in this case, the part of your mind that could have been programmed. And I would like you to think about that as your spiritual child. And you are the spiritual parent. Now, with the knowledge that you're gaining in your emotional education and your spiritual growth, you have to take the role that your physical parents or your physical environment didn't do. And then you have to reprogram. We call it reparenting. We've done many videos on this. We're well worth you looking at them. But basically, the idea is you have to now step into the role of a parent, giving that inner child of yours, giving yourself that value, that worth, that reassurance. You have to do that for yourself. And this is why this is so powerful, that when you become that parent, you can then do things that to your inner child that they never received. Doesn't this sound easy? This is extremely difficult because you have to do something that's unfamiliar. You have to take care of yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to validate yourself. You have to agree that you have worth and value. And this is why the inner child work is so vitally important. And we've done many videos in the archives on this reparenting. But this is your challenge. You have to be the spiritual parent, and you have to step in and create that feeling of love for yourself. And this is why it will change your life. And this is the essence of this teaching of loving yourself, valuing yourself, and connecting to that true spirituality of who you are.
And I will put a link in the show notes to some of our inner child reparenting teachings, as well as we have a huge playlist on love, self-love, and love in relationships, which will also help you with this topic. So, David, if we, in practical terms, if we catch ourselves with the uncomfortable red light feelings of lack, of questioning our value, of questioning our lovability, that is when we need to talk kindly to ourselves, remind ourselves that we're almost running on this faulty operating system.
Yes, when we experience and create the red light feeling, I see that as your inner child screaming out for what it wants. What does it want? It wants attention. It wants to be listened to. It wants to be talked to. It wants to be held. It wants to be loved. It wants that attention that you never received as a child. And this is now your responsibility as a spiritual adult and a spiritual teacher to give that to your child. No one else can do this. A partner can't do this. The family can't do this. This is totally your responsibility. And this is why this teaching, as I said, is so important, life-changing, that you have to step into that role and I'll say again, this will be the hardest thing that you've ever done, because you've got to do something different to what you received when you were a child.
And so, David, what does this giving attention to our inner child look like? So rather than turning and looking externally for the attention, which then we read as being love from other people, what typically could we do or should we be doing to give ourselves positive attention and love?
The number one thing that you should do is to go past the red light feeling. So the red light feeling is your child crying out for your attention, whether that's fear, anxiety, anger, whatever it is. You've got to go past that and you've got to open the conversation with the inner child. What is it looking for? I will tell you what it will normally be. It's not fair. It's unjust. Things aren't the way I want them to be. I'm not being treated right here. And then that's your role to step in and to say, I am the only one that can supply that to you. And that's the reparenting. That instead of having inside of you this tug of war between the inner child and the mature part of you, the whole essence of this teaching is to bring that together so it becomes one.
So when you say, I am the only one who can give this to you, what you're actually saying is, I am the only one who can unequivocally at all times give you space to be heard. I am the only one at all times that can talk to you compassionately. I am the only one at all times who you can rely on to value you. I am the only one at all times that will look out for our own care and health and well-being. Because although it's nice to have other people who we can turn to, we should be able to turn to ourselves first.
And I am the only one that will never leave you. I am the only one that will never leave you. I am the only one that will always be there. I am the only one that will always be there, regardless of what we're going through. And this is you and the inner child coming together as an unbreakable link. And then going back to what Alex said right at the beginning, we are the only one that can create that warm, fuzzy feeling.
That's wonderful, David. Thank you. And that was a really beautiful, powerful teaching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please do let us know and perhaps share it with someone else who you think it may also help. Please do check out the show notes for those links to the other teachings that will help you with this subject. David works every week with clients from all over the world via Zoom video call. If you'd like to learn more about David's one-to-one consultations, if you need support and guidance on these kind of issues, do also check out the link that I will put in the show notes. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new long-form teachings every Saturday, as well as 2 midweek short snippets of wisdom. So do subscribe so you get all that beautiful information. We look forward to sharing with you again very soon. Bye-bye.